What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Fab, Freddie Fox, America's Big Brother, and we back with the Saturday Night Sit Down. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Fab, Freddie Fox, America's Big Brother, and tonight we got the man behind Dad. Can we talk? Anthony Ray. What's going on, man?
Man, what's good with you, man? I'm feeling good. Ready to get it in.
Awesome, man. Glad to hear, man. So, as I break it down to everybody, man, the whole reason I started this podcast, right, is that I seen that, the impact of not having your father in your life or not having positive male role models in your lives, and how that can negatively impact our young ones' lives, either boys or girls or whatever. And by setting this up, man, I want to kind of change that narrative, show us that how important we really are in our kids' lives, that we really do matter, and just understanding and helping them to better transition into adulthood or into manhood, as we all struggle through that and we all felt like we were alone. Because I'm sure, as you know, when we were growing up, man, we were always told as men, don't talk about your feelings. You can't cry. You can't be emotional. You got to bottle everything up inside. We weren't really allowed to express ourselves the way we wanted to. So a lot of things a lot of our emotional sides that we had to deal with, we did behind closed doors by ourselves alone, which is very dangerous because, of course, we don't know all the answers, and we need to be able to speak freely. So by sitting down with men like yourself, I'm hoping to, shed light on that to all our young men and let them know that, you're not alone. It's okay to talk about your feelings. We need to get that off our chest and stop, living in what a mentor and a role model of mine, Jason Wilson, calls emotional incarceration. We need to be able to break free. So that's the reason why I joined you on the show, man. As I've been, going down this journey, going through Instagram and looking at the different people who are kind of in line to what I'm doing, I came across your page and Dad, Can We Talk? And I think that's just so important because that's something that I tell my daughter, from the get-go. If you ever need something, baby, just come to me and say, Dad, I need to talk to you, And at that point, I need to make sure that I check on my feelings and really listen and open up because it's important. I don't want to deter you or fear, turn you away or react out of anger, stuff like that, because your feelings are important and I need to be able to listen and be there for you. So, thank you for starting that page. And before we get, we'll get into that in a minute. But my first question to all the guys on the show, Anthony, is this. For you and your eyes, what do you think are some of the main characteristics and main qualities it takes to be a good man or a good person?
I would say, first off, I just want to thank you, man, for inviting me on the show. Definitely an honor, bro. Seriously. But I would say, I think for a man, I think it's to be, I think integrity. I think integrity is one of the biggest things, man. Just really walking in honesty and just being upright, just really being a stand-up man, being a stand-up person, owning up to your mistakes. And when I say upright, I ain't meaning, perfect, but I'm meaning, being able to own up to everything that we do, being responsible, taking accountability and saying, if I have done any wrong, let me make that thing right. Let me make amends. And that goes to, that comes with our children, being able to say sorry when we wronged our children. When it comes to our wives or, significant other, being able to go to them when we're wrong and admit that. And just in general, friendships or relationships in life in general, just being able to just be honest and being real with people and just saying, like being able to own up to things that we do, keeping our word. If we say we're going to do it, then do it. I think that's one of the biggest things that I believe a man, one of the greatest things a man could do is more than anything, keep his word.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's very key. Every time I think about a word, I always go back to Scarface and Tony Montana, like he always says, man, all I got in this world is my word and my balls, and I don't break it for nobody.
Straight up.
So that was one of the most impactful lines for myself from that entire film. And it's true. A lot of guys that I speak with, they have that in common. That's why I feel that I am aligning myself with the right guys to, really help guide and mentor the young generation, because it is important to have tons of integrity and stand on your word, because that's how people look at you as a man. They got to be able to believe in what you say and feel that you're going to back up what you say and mean that. Another thing that I think that really stands out of what you said, which I strongly believe with some people, I find it, I don't know if it's just the old school mentality or what, but apologizing to their kids is something that they don't think is something that they should do. You know, we got to like it's just that I don't know if it's the like I can't let them see me fail. I can't let them see me struggle type mentality, all that stuff, because I got to be the pillar. But I think we learn more and appreciate more our parents when we see their vulnerabilities and their weakness because, you know, that makes them more relatable. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like I know I'm not perfect because then we give them false expectations and false realities to live by. Like you got to be perfect. You can't make any mistakes. You can't do this because I'm not. You know, and I think it's very important. I did that early on. Like if I do a mistake, you know, I apologize to my kids because as I learned as I got older and been saying this more and more is that as a parent, you know, I look back at my parents, they were trying to figure it out too. Like they didn't have the answers. There's no play by play book on how to raise kids or how to be a good parent or how to address every single situation that they face. You know, you just kind of wing it. You do the best you possibly can. And mistakes are gonna happen because again, we're not perfect. But when those mistakes do happen, we gotta be able to, like you say, have that integrity and that honesty and man up like, hey, you know what? I was hoping that it'd come out different. I was trying to do this, and this is what I really expected to come out of it, and I was wrong. You know, I'm sorry if I were to hurt you or if it came out the wrong way. I'm just trying to be the best that I can be. And as kids, they really understand a lot more than what people think. And we
Hmm.
need to give them a lot more credit to understand that because we were all in that position once and we all had that mindset too. You know, we're trying to understand and learn. And, you know, if you really come with us with honesty and openness and just being real, it's a lot easier it's a lot easier to swallow that pill, you know, if that makes any sense.
Hmm.
Um, Now, when it comes also to again like those characteristics and qualities, I think is very important for anyone, you know, but men to have very strong morals that they live by, you know, and go by day to day basis. So, for you, what are some of your key morals that you live by?
Uh, my key morals for one, I think that the Most High, man, just keeping the Most High number one. You know, always knowing that we're nothing without Him. You know,
Hmm.
and that's something that I teach my kids. That's something that we have to live by because uh, and the reason I say that because that's something that I've saw, you know, over the last 10 years. You know, that's the way that I've lived and we want to keep the moral code of the word of Yah. You know, that's just what we do. That's how we live. That's how we eat. The literal foundation of my family. And
Hmm.
so when it comes to that, you know, making sure we keep a clean temple. I believe that our temples are one of the most important things to us, you know, for health, for our energy. Everything goes. I mean, we just got to take care of our bodies, man. You know, and that's something that I try every day, just trying to make sure I keep myself, um, just trying to keep myself together. You know, when it comes, I just got back into exercising for a while, man. It's like I got away from that type of stuff. You know, making sure I'm exercising on a at least every other day, weekly basis, trying to keep myself together. And I just believe that's a big thing, you know, just showing my kids that being active is important. Eating right, you know, keeping the right things in our body in order to protect our health, you know, so that we can live, you know, prosperous lives. So um, that type of stuff I really hold dear to. Like I think that's a really big thing. Um, and like I say, just as far as like morals, like I think the Bible is the one thing that I believe in really keeping that. And I believe that when you have that as the foundation of your home, I believe that keeps everything else, you know, just following by that, living by that. That's the way that you keep things in order. It keeps you in check. You know, it keeps me in check to make sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, you know, as a man, as a husband, and as a father. When I live by that, you know, that's my number one moral code, living by whatever it is in that, just living like that. So I think that's one of the biggest things for me.
You know, absolutely. I think it's very important for us to have something to look up to and really help guide us because, again, you know, without that, we're lost. You know, we don't have a moral compass. We don't have a guide. We don't have something to look forward to or to give thanks to, because all that really teaches a bunch of things when you go through the Bible. It teaches about gratitude, you know, appreciative, you know, understanding, giving to the needy, being helpful, being kind. It's a lot of different things that really come into play in our day-to-day lives to be kind to one another. So it is a big thing to teach our children and let them understand that, you know, the higher being have something to look forward to, and have that faith, because that's the most important. If you don't have faith in anything or anyone or whatever, then it's almost like you're completely lost.
Straight up.
And being lost is very, very scary, because I know what that's like when as a man, you know, when you feel that you don't have any purpose, you don't understand what your purpose is or where you are. It is a very demoralizing feeling. You know,
Mhm.
and it led me to tons of depression and anxiety and stress, because you know, everything that I held dear and moral as far as I ever man kind of went out the window, not being able to provide or putting food on the table, taking care of my family, you know, making sure that everything's all right, and all those things that I feel that as a man is necessary to do. I wasn't able to do because I didn't have a purpose and understand where I was, where I was meant to be. You know, and that, as long as you have the Bible and having your faith, stuff like that, it continues to help you find or let you know that you are important and special and have something to look forward to it and grow. So great way to throw that in there.
Definitely, yeah. And I would say even going along with what you were saying, you know, like last year was probably one of the hardest years of my life. Um, just went through so many different things, different just changes. I was coming up to the end of my journey in school, finishing up my degree, and man, everything was just so. I felt like I was everywhere. I was trying to do school. Then I work full time. Was going through it in my marriage. Then I have 3 kids, and you know, just and then still trying to keep everything else, together.
Hmm.
Still, friends and family and all that type of stuff. And I'm like, for a while, bro, like I almost felt like I wasn't gonna make it. Going
Hmm.
through all of these different things. I ended up leaving where my church I had been at for the last 10 years in 2020. So I was going through that transition, and all of this stuff, just everything coming at me all at once. And bro, if I didn't have that word to lean back on, like I probably wouldn't be talking to you today, honestly, bro. Like I went through some real stuff, man. And at times it was scary, to have the thoughts I was having, and
Hmm.
to really just go through that stuff. And if I didn't have anything to lean back on, if I didn't have, the moral compass to say, like, there's certain things I can't allow myself to go to certain places. Like I there was felt like there was something that would just stop me from
Hmm.
going to the heights that I was headed to, man. And it was just having that thing to hold on to, man. It was everything, because I honestly, bro, felt like giving up on my wife. I wanted to give up on my kids. I wanted to give up on school. I wanted to give up on just life. I'm like, man, I'm tired. I'm tired, man. I'm tired of just going through all of these things. And at times it didn't feel like it was worth it,
Hmm.
honestly. But, you know, when I talked with one of my friends, and he was able to shift me back through the word, man, and just get me back in focus. And I'm like, bro, I'm tripping. Like, what am I thinking about? Like, what am I
Right,
talking
right.
like what's going on, man? And really had to, check myself, hold myself accountable to certain things that I had allowed myself to get into. Um, and all of that, and it's something that it's an anchor, something that it brought me back to where I should be, man. Forever grateful for having the word, having friends, family to bring me back. And like I said, so yeah, that's a really good point that you made. That You know, if you don't have something that you can stand on, like that's a scary place to be in, man. You know, when you don't have anything that you can just stand on that brings you back. Because at times, you know, we all, you know, drift. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we drift spiritually, we drift mentally. Um, and when you begin to drift, if you can't bring yourself back in, that's a scary place to be in, man.
No, absolutely, and I know what you mean too. Like these last couple of years have been very taxing, but it also helped, I guess, create a lot of growth as well. You know, you got to go through the fire sometimes to figure out what you really made of. Because I was there, like I said, I didn't for a while. I didn't have any purpose. I didn't know where I was at. It was tough between, looking for jobs and because I didn't graduate from college, everybody looking for these bachelor's and these associate degrees, and I didn't have that one. And now I'm, 30 some odd years old, and I don't have these things. How am I going to put, my daughter was just born. I was going through all these things, man, and the scary thought is that, like you say, I wasn't for a long time thinking, like, you know what, I'm worth more dead than I am alive. If I get a life insurance policy or something like that, at least I leave them with something. You know what I mean? I'm able to provide something to them. And that's a very dangerous mindset to be at, man. Like I kid you not, bro. I was literally sitting on a bridge one day, man. The only reason I was looking because it was traffic, and I'm like, if I jump, man, I'm just gonna get hurt. Like it ain't gonna do anything. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
so but it was another thing too, like you say, I think, God give me a sign and just, give you need more time, what I mean? Just wait a little bit. What I mean? Just I'm working on something, and it's important too, like you say, having, good friends and loyal people in you that are able to check you and correct you, and having those people that you confide in. And sometimes those people come and the rarest of places that you wouldn't even think of. Like even for me, one of my darkest times, man, I was going through a lot, and my best friend, he's like my brother. We were talking and stuff, but even at that, his words weren't enough for some reason. I know he was doing his best, but because I didn't think he could fully understand like where I was coming at and the depression that I was feeling. Um, but he did point me to somebody else. He's like, our other, so and so has gone through some depression too. So I was like, let me just reach out. I don't know why I reached out to him, but I did, and he would call me up, every other day. So like, yo, how you doing? All right, man? You straight? How you feeling? And we would just talk, and I was just able to vent. And it's somebody that I really didn't talk to like that or open up, but because he was there to give me the lending ear, and I knew that he was relatable, it really kind of helped me get grounded again and understand that the most important, like I said, the reason starting this is that I'm not alone. There's other men that go through this stuff. It's a common thing if we talk about it, and just express ourselves, because that's all we really need sometimes is being able to vent. I think it's because of the way that we were raised and telling us that we had to keep all that stuff inside. It's so toxic and damaging that it poisons us from the inside out. And if we don't let it out, that it will consume us.
Hmm.
So it's definitely important to have those things and have those role models and people that we can confide in. Going back to like your show with dad, can we talk on the reason I'm doing this and knowing that my friends who didn't have their dads in their lives and stuff, it all starts with that, the relationship with our fathers. So for you, what was your relationship with your dad like growing up?
It wasn't. I didn't have a relationship. Um, I wouldn't say our relationship was. I would kind of see my dad every now and then. I would see him on holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving. When I would go to my grandmother's house when he was out of prison.
Hmm.
That was really the bulk of our relationship when I was growing up. I think maybe for a year and a half. I remember a time where he was doing really good. He was with my sister's mom at the time, and at that time he was doing really good. He was working, and he would come pick me and my brother up, take us to the beach, and take us to restaurants, and um, those memories stick out to me. Like I never forget that stuff because those were the times when I did spend some time with them. But for the most part, my dad was in and out of jail, county jail, in and out of prison. Um, it was just that, and um, growing up, I never really, even when I did see him, it was never really like the dad son relationship. It was
Hmm.
just, when I would see him, we'll talk about girls. I'd be like, oh shoot, that's my daddy. It was never like, oh, I hate my dad. I would always be super excited when I did see him. And
Hmm.
so when I seen him, it was love, like, he would always tell me he loved me. Even when he was in, locked up, he would always write me letters and stuff and, let me know that he loved me and he misses me. And, and as a kid, for me, that was everything. I'm like, oh shoot, my daddy wrote me, And as I got older, you know, I think about 10 years, about 11 years, I think in 2011, when I gave my life to the Most High, man, I was like, you know what? Let me go and make this thing right with my dad. Just I wanted to let him know that I forgive him,
Right.
and I love him. And he was in the county jail at the time. And I went over to the jail to go visit him, and I was just like, "What's up, pops? Talk with me. Talk to me, man. And you get like 55 minutes. So for 55 minutes, man, we got a chance to sit down at that jail, with that glass in between us, and we talked. And he told me everything. I just wanted to know. I told him I want to hear your story. I've heard everyone else's story
Right. Right.
while you weren't there. But I want to know what happened. Like, what happened with you, bruh? And he was honest and he was real with me. And he told me, he got on the drugs after high school, and basically that was it. The drugs took over his life, man, and it gave me a better perspective on him. And I was like, dang, I understand, pops. Like, bro, you got issues, you got problems, just like me, and just like other people. You just your problems are just different than mine. And yours are a little more hardcore than mine, but I understand. And that day, I made amends and let him know that, man, bro, listen, I don't want to live in the past anymore, man. Like, I want to
Hmm.
move forward. I love you. I don't hold anything against you. Like, let's put that stuff behind us because I still need you. And over the next couple of years, he still was in and out of jail. And it got to the point to where one day we had a talk, and I just told him straight up, like, man, pops, listen, I'm tired of listening to the excuses, because the excuses are what I'm looking for. All I'm looking for from you is, bro, you have grandchildren now.
Hmm.
Like, I'm a grown man. I'm married with my own kids. Man, all I'm looking for you to do is just be a granddad, bro. Like, call me sometimes and let me know that you all right, and let me know that you're alive. Like, that's all I want to know, pops. That's it. I don't want nothing else. I just want to know that you're alive, you're well, and every now and then, I just want to know that you're here, man. And um, it got a little real in the conversation. I kind of went off on him about a couple of things, but I feel like he needed it at that time.
Yeah.
I just told
Yeah.
him straight up, man, I feel like you be tripping sometimes, pops. And all your kids are grown now. We got kids, bro, and we need you. And a little bit after that, he ended up moving to Tennessee. We're from Florida, and he moved to Tennessee about almost 3 years ago. And he's been doing that was probably the best thing that could have ever happened to him,
That's
because
awesome.
since he's been there, man, our relationship is like he called me like 3 times today. And I'm like, dang, pops, you just called me like 20 minutes ago. You know, now I can't get him to stop calling. But it's I love it. To know that he's good. He's working. He has his own place. Like, and when I say these things, bro, I haven't known my dad to have a job probably since I was like in like the third grade. I haven't known my dad to have his own place and be living good, bro, since I was in like the third grade. So for me, it's a blessing, to hear my dad call me, even if he just calling he ain't even talking about nothing. Most of the time he called me, he don't even say anything. He just like, "What's up?" I'm like, "What's good with you, man? You all right?" And it's just small talk, but I'm like, he's good, and it kind of erases all I'm like, man, whatever. Okay, yeah, you wasn't there. I'm not gonna hold on to that because I can't, because I have children of my own. I gotta be here for my wife and my kids, and I can't continue to hold on to the past. And I think that really helped them, and it's good now that I encourage them years ago to call my brother and make it right with my sisters. I'm like, man, bro, at the end of the day, you our dad,
Right.
and he took heed to a lot of the stuff. He calls me for prayer all the time. He want prayer, and I'm like, man, listen, man, call your sons, call your daughters, man, make it right, bro. And he's doing good, man. He's like, man, I ain't got no complaints about him, man. He just, like I say, I'm happy. He calls me. He's laughing. He's living. And I'm just like, man, it's such a blessing to see where he is today opposed to 10 years ago.
And that's a beautiful thing. And I think something that you said earlier really touches on, because I know a lot of guys whose dads just completely disappear,
Mm-hmm.
and some of them, they make excuses for themselves, like, oh, I didn't think I was going to be any good for you, and this, that, or whatever, and kind of try to, I want to say, almost play the sympathy card,
Yeah,
and do it that way. But all we need you to do is try.
that's it.
That's it. Just seeing that you put in effort, like you said, he's been in and out of jail and going back and forth and stuff like that, but he was calling you, and trying to be there when he could, and the moments I was there. And for you, like you said, that was enough.
Mm-hmm.
And that same thing with my other somebody I spoke to last week. His dad was in the military, and they didn't, see each other a couple times a year, but his dad will call every once in a while and make sure he, reach out on his birthdays and the holidays and stuff like that, let him know that they love him and that they care, but that they was thinking about him.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's what you get, sometimes that's just enough. That's all you really need, not to feel abandoned, or uncared for, because that cuts deep, to think that, your parent doesn't want you.
Mm-hmm.
You brought me into this world, but you don't want me. Like, I don't know, what did I do wrong? You start putting the blame on yourself and start to think, and then you start to poison yourself with
Yeah.
something that really isn't your fault. You know, and on that too, like you're saying, with your dad, and the situation with your dad that you had, um, how do you think that impacted you as a person growing up?
Ooh, I think it affected me in so many, man, in ways that I can't even count. I think a lot about this topic because I look at my own kids and I'm like, man, I wish if I can only imagine where I would be today if I had me, dad like me, like how I am with my kids growing up. Like I just wish, it is what it is now, but I can only imagine like I always felt, and for me, I was my mom. My mom had 3 children. She had 2 from my dad. I was my mom's middle child. So my oldest brother was my mom and my dad's first child. So, he was like this special, he's everything, my auntie's first nephew, he was everything. And then my younger brother, he has a different dad than me and my older brother. So my younger brother is his dad's first child and my mom's last child. So he was my mom's baby and
Mm.
his dad's first child. So he had like this special thing. So I always felt left out. Growing up, I just felt like, and then it's always funny because I'm light skinned, but my 2 other brothers, from my mom are dark skinned. So I always just felt just so like, man, like I'm just different in every way.
Right, right.
And I never felt loved. And I remember I would tell my mom that, like, when she
Mm.
would get on me, I would be like, man, y'all don't love me. And I would get into it with my brothers all the time. And that was just how I felt growing up. Like, no one loves me. No one cares about me. I'm just an outcast.
Wow.
I wish I was born into another family. I would say all this stuff to my mom all the time. But, and when I would say that stuff, I really used to mean it.
Yeah.
I felt like, like, damn, like I wish someone would come, would show me that type of love and affection, you know, and I was that type of child. I wanted the physical touch. Like that's one of my love languages. I wanted to feel the embrace of even my mom sometimes, but my mom, man, she wasn't like that. And I wish I would have had a dad to just hug me sometimes and be like, man, I love you and I care about you. And not having that, it made me, it almost made me, I ain't really believe in like, I don't think nobody loves me like that. Like I just
Right.
don't feel cared for. And so once I And then once I got a girlfriend and I got cheated on this one time. And I remember after that, bro, it was like my whole life changed. And I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't have anyone to talk to. And so not having that dad there, I didn't know how to have anyone to talk to about girls, relationships. I didn't have, I only people I can confide in was my friends. But as youngsters, we don't confide in our friends about real stuff. All we talk about
Right.
girls and sports and whatever else you do, parties and drugs.
Always trying to one up each other. That's what it is. You know what I mean? Like it's
As youngsters, as a high schooler, you ain't coming to your friend like, man, I got this issue going on. We because you'll be embarrassed.
hmm
So you ain't talking with your friends about the things you should be talking with. So honestly, I didn't have anyone to talk to. So it wasn't until it was a long time, bro, honestly. Probably when I was like 20, 21, maybe 22, when I first started talking to people and saying, like, bro, I need somebody to talk to.
hmm
And I believe if I would have had a dad there that could sit me down and teach me about, heartbreak and teach me about the dangers of drugs and staying in school, especially when I first went into college and just all that type of stuff. I just feel like I had no guidance. Of course I had uncles and stuff, but I talked to my uncles about females, that's what they were doing, so it was never like I never had anyone to talk to me about life and just give me the real and say, hey man, you listen, bro, you tripping. And really it wasn't until I met my pastor. I met my pastor when I was 23, when I was 22. When I met my pastor, my former pastor, he was the first man that sat me down and was like, bro, listen, it's so much. Like, what are you doing with your life? What's your purpose? Like, what are you living for? Like, what are you doing? And when I met him and he confronted me in that way, it was like this fatherly love that I always wanted. He was a hard
Right.
man. My pastor was a very hard man, but I always loved it because I'm like, dang, I ain't never had nobody, challenge me like this and let me like. He always challenged me, and I'm like, oh, okay, boom, let me take this challenge, and it always made me go hard, you know. And so I think if I would have had a dad, that would have been the biggest thing. Like if I had a man who would have challenged me, because I'm that type of person. I'm a competitor. I like to feel challenged. So if someone tell me like, man, do this, bro. Like, get this right. And that was what drove me for like the last 10 years. It was having that pastor and then all the other brothers at my church that will always challenge me and make me feel like, all right, yeah, you doing all right, but don't stop there. Keep going, continue to better yourself. I think that was my biggest thing I missed with having a dad, someone who would do that type of stuff. I never had that, man. And I think that affected everything. Like, I'm 33 now, just getting my degree, you know, bought my first house 2 years ago. It's like once I hit my 30s, I started doing all these things. But I feel like if I would have had a dad, a man who was there from the beginning, man, I would be like way ahead of where I am now. But everything is still a blessing, though.
Yeah, and I think everything happens for a reason, and it's funny that you kind of said that too. You just got your degree at 33 because I did too, man. I got my degree back in 2020 when I was
Yeah,
33. You know what I mean? So it took a while to get there, but
yeah,
it was something that I knew how to do for number one, is to make sure that I can get like a good job and do stuff for my kids, but also, give them show them what's possible. You know what I mean? Like if I could do it, you ain't got no excuse. You know what I mean? Like really lead them by example. I mean, they may not want to go to college, they may not want to go, but it is an option and it is attainable if you really, really want it.
that's real.
Um, I think like you said, something that kind of stood out to me was how you were saying about, not really feeling loved or embraced. Because I think I felt that a couple times, within my family um I guess I kind of open up about that now, with my family, my mom, my sister, and stuff like that. I feel like they're very tight knit, but it's one of those things where like if I don't go looking for them, they don't come looking for me. I know they love me, I know they care about me and everything when I'm there. Um, but like if I don't go to their house to go visit and stuff like that, they'll call me like, "Oh, I haven't seen you in a few days." Like, you know where I live too. It's a two-way street. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, come see me. If you really miss me, come see me. So that makes me feel some sort of way sometimes. But it's kind of like, I don't want to dwell on that because I got my own kids, I got my wife, people that are here for me, and the fact that you mentioned that too is like not really feeling love and understanding that, and how you said you cheated on your first girlfriend. I think that goes to I've been in that state too when I was growing up, but really not getting too emotionally attached into relationships because I didn't think anybody really cared. You know what I mean? Like, and you don't really trust them. Like they say that or whatever, but you don't buy it. And it may be true, but you're so messed up from your own life and your own experiences that you don't know how to accept that or really tolerate that. Like even for me, like now for some, my wife gets mad at me sometimes too because she tries to compliment me sometimes, whatever. I'm like, nah, you know what I mean? Like, and I don't really accept it,
Mm-hmm.
because I've never tried to in my own life or do that. So it's kind of hard to understand that or grasp that concept. So I think those are some things that kind of like you say, we go through things that really affect us in relationships in the future that come out in different sort of ways.
It,
You know.
it's funny on that same point. There's a song by a guy I listen to named Bizzle. Um, what's the song? The song is called "Note to Self," and in the song, he he's basically speaking to himself, like writing a note to himself, and he speaks about how, like, the whole theme of the song is how he doesn't love himself. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
know, he's trying to love all these other people, but and at the end of the day, he doesn't even love himself. Like I don't even love me. You know, like it's so hard for me to give my own self compliments. It's hard for me to accept the fact that someone says good job, because at the end
Right.
of the day, I don't even feel like I'm doing a good job. you know. And man, when I heard that song, man, when I tell you that thing touched me in way, like, man, the song touched me so much, man, because it hit me right where I was. And this was like in November or something like that, December, when I was like in the middle of going through all the stuff. And it was so real because I'm like, dang, I'm about to get a whole freaking degree. And I'm talking about, like, I've been A's and B's throughout the whole thing, but I still feel like I'm not even doing anything. Like, I feel like a failure. I feel like, you know, all these people, people look at me in my community, see all the things I'm doing with the podcast and the community work that I do. And people look at me like this good person. And I'm like, bro, who am I? Like, I'm nobody. Like, I'm trash. Like, I ain't even, and I would look at myself in these ways because I doubt myself so much. I
Mm-hmm.
look down on my own self so much. Like, I can't even accept a compliment without thinking, well, I ain't doing anything. I ain't really doing nothing. And people constantly tell me, no, bro, you are. Like, bro, you're doing so good. And it's so hard for me to accept that, you know, and when I got down to the root of it, I'm like, man, like, at times I don't even love myself, and that's what
Yeah.
makes it hard for me to love my wife. It makes it
Mm-hmm.
hard for me to love my children, it because I'm so frustrated with myself at times. And I'm like, that's a problem. Like, I gotta
Yeah.
start to love and care about myself so that I could love on other people properly, and
Absolutely.
man, that stuff is deep, man.
I gotta hear that song note this up because I know exactly what you're feeling, man, and it's so hard to um get yourself right and believe that. Because for me, my biggest challenge, right, is that, and a lot of the people get in my head, right? Because
Yeah.
the moment you start to feel good about yourself and you start good about yourself, somebody real quick like stop being so conceited. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Like, oh, don't get your head, don't gas your head up. You know what I mean? Like, so you're like, oh damn, like you feel like you got to take a step back, and you never really allowed yourself to compliment yourself. But I started to realize that too is that, and I've been saying this a lot lately, is if people not gonna like you, they just not gonna like you. It don't matter what you say, what you do, whatever they just not gonna like you. You can't convince them that. And the moment you try to big yourself up, they're gonna turn around and say you conceited. You know, you try to
Mm-hmm.
do something good. Well, it ain't that big of a deal because so and so did it better. You know what I mean? Like, so, I started to try to shift that and really work on appreciating my wins. And
Yeah.
it's a hard transition because it's so engraved in your mind because you were trained that way for so long. It's very hard to kind of break. Um, so I definitely understand where you're coming from on that. And like you said that, graduating with this whole degree, man. And I'm gonna tell you this. I don't think I've said this before on any of these podcasts and stuff, but I was going through the whole school and trying to graduate and stuff. It was a very difficult journey. You're trying to work part time, raising your kids, doing your family thing. Your time is dwindled to nothing. I'm up, doing work, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, taking tests and doing homework and filling out exams and stuff like that. And I'll never forget it because I don't know what came over me, but I went over and I started to fill out all the, graduation paperwork and all that stuff. And I got it handed it in. And I was walking, I sat in my car and I was looking at it. And it was like the pamphlet of what's going to happen on graduation. I started bawling like a little baby, man.
Bruh.
The tears was flooding down my eyes. I was so
Bruh.
like kind of bad. I called up my mom and she's like, "Are you okay? What's wrong?" And I'm like, "Mom, I did it. I did it, Mom. I did it." And she was like, "What are you talking?" I was like, "Yo, I did it. I'm graduating, Mom. I can't." But and it was the most. And I'm getting emotional right now. I get thinking about it, man. But it was just such a flood of emotions, man, that I couldn't. I didn't know what to do with myself.
Bruh.
You
Man, it's so crazy you say that, bro. I never forget the date. December 15th was my last day, my last assignment that I turned in. And it's funny, my boy Robert G. Frazier just joined. He's just started. Bro, listen, the day that I turned in my last assignment, after I was sitting out here in my garage. And after I hit submit, bro, listen to me. Man, it just, like you say, when it hit me in that moment, like, bro, I'm really done. Like, I'm finna graduate in 2 days. Like I
right?
really made it to the point to where I turned in this last assignment. Like, I really did it. Like, bro, when I tell you I haven't cried like that in years, like, the crying was like, man, bro, it was like I ain't really know what to do with myself. And I took a good 15 minutes just really just,
Yeah,
I broke down, bro.
yeah.
And I
It was
remember after
real.
that, I called my boy Robert, who just joined. And man, after I sat and I talked with Robert, and man, the stuff that my brother told me that night, the conversation we had, man, was just like, it was everything I needed. It was, man, when I tell you the man ministered to my soul, it was just like the culmination of everything that I went through in the last 2 years. And man, bro, it was everything. And it was just to let out those emotions. Like, I felt a release. Like, I felt like, dang,
Yeah.
like I really, it's funny. I just got my degree today in the mail. I just got it. And I was talking with my wife tonight.
Congratulations.
Oh yeah, appreciate it, man. And I was talking with my wife about, all of that. And I'm just like, man, like I I feel like I'm still recovering. I graduated December, bro. I feel like even to like right now, I'm still recovering months later from the stress that I put on myself over the last 2 years. Like it's, man, that was like, I did so much grinding to get that piece of paper, man.
Yeah.
Like it
Yeah.
took almost, I feel like it took so much. Like, man, I feel like I wasn't even gonna make it, bro. Like it just, that's how much grind, tears, sweat I put into getting that. And you know everything else that went on in between, me getting this degree, bro. Man, it's March. It done been 3 months, man, and I'm still, mentally, spiritually, physically trying to recover from everything that I put on myself. And I would say it was worth it,
Absolutely.
you know
Absolutely.
but it's like, man, that whole journey was like, I need to put it in a book. you know.
Listen,
And it
listen.
was
You say
real.
that now, like I said, it was 2020 for me, man. In the midst of it, and it hurt me, man, because ideally, what I wanted was to have a graduation. My daughter see me walk that stage. My daughter, my son, see me walk that stage and get my diploma. That's what I really wanted, you know. But of course, COVID kind of threw his whole plan in there, and you know. But like my daughter told me too, she said, "Daddy, I'm proud of you," you know, and she had said that to me. And you know, like I said, it's been 2 years later, man, and just now even thinking about that whole process just get me emotional again, because it was taxing, man. I was at one point, like, yeah, like you said, I didn't think I was gonna make it. I was getting help from like I said, the government, because of what happened with my job and how I got laid off. They're paying for my school, and you know, I failed one or two of my classes, and it was like delaying the process. And it was like, oh well, we may not be able to continue to pay or stuff. And I was like, you know what, do whatever you got to do. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
I'm not gonna sit here and stress myself out anymore, man. Like, I'm grinding as much as I can, man. Like, if you're gonna continue to pay for it, great. If not, just do whatever you gotta do, because I'm done. And I was leaving the office, and I was walking in my car, and I had pulled out my keys to the car, and my wallet came out, and inside my wallet I got a picture of my grandmother, and it hit the floor, and that was the only thing that flew out of my wallet, and it was just looking at me dead in the face, and I was like, I picked it up, I gave it a, said, Grandma, it's gonna be okay. I know it. Thank you, thank you. Couple days later, they call me. They're like, "Yeah, we're gonna finish paying your school. We'll extend it and stuff like that. You gotta do what you gotta do, but you know, just make sure you do good, and we'll finish it." So, you know, I just kind of tossed it up to God and my ancestors and all that. She was like, "Nah." Seeing that picture was a whole different. Because again, I have it deep in my wallet behind my credit. Like, I don't know how it flew out, but it was just like boom, and looking at me like, "Don't, you got this."
Crazy.
You know, so that helped me pushing forward and all that stuff. So it was definitely an emotional, taxing journey, and I'm glad that talking to you, I wasn't the only one that got that emotional and that stress from it, because it was a very taxing experience. Again, I don't regret it at all. I would do it 100 times over if I had to. But it was just a sense of, like you said, just all that release and everything that you've gone through, and everything, the ups and downs, the long nights, the homework assignments, the stress, everything was came to a point where it was like, it's over. You got this. You did it. And it was an amazing, amazing feeling. Um,
It's real.
and as far as like that with the kids, and I know you said you had three kids, and trying to be the dad that you didn't have and all those things. What do you think? And for the record, how old are your kids?
They're 8, 6, and 5.
Nice. Yeah, I got two. My daughter's 6, and my son's about to be 3 next month.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, Now, for you, everything that you're doing with your dad and all those things, what do you think is the most important thing that you're? I know you talked about, make sure they have keep their faith and keeping the Bible in their hand and stuff like that, and really lead them down that path. What is something else you feel that you're actively trying to instill in your kids?
For one, I want my kids to be mainly I want my kids to be comfortable in their skin. Like, that's a big thing that I preach, especially for my daughter, because of the world that we live in. The world tells
Absolutely.
us, that you got to look a certain way, you got to dress a certain way, you got to be, all these. I'm just big on being yourself, and my oldest daughter, she's 8, she's in the 3rd grade. So she's at that age where I'm having that conversation with her now. And a few weeks ago, I had this conversation with her. She was having it. My wife has locks.
Hmm.
So my wife is like big on, the natural hair stuff. So I think a year ago, my oldest daughter was like, I want to get some locks too, mom. So my wife locked her hair. So she had some fake locks in her hair about a month ago. And my wife was like, hey, we need to take those out so that we can wash your hair or whatever. And bro, she just started spazzing out like, no, we can't do it. No, my hair is ugly. I'm like, huh? I'm like
Mm.
in the kitchen just minding my business. But then I overhear their conversation. And I was like, wait a minute. You said what? Your hair is ugly. Who said that? And so, for context, she goes to a private school. She goes to a private Christian school, which is predominantly white.
Hmm.
And when she says this, automatically in my mind, I'm thinking, what is she feeling the pressure of, and she's talked about this before, how, You know, there's not a lot of black kids at the school, and she doesn't have a lot of black friends. And, you know, she stands out, you know, just naturally. She stands out. And, you know, I got upset, honestly. And I'm like, man,
Yeah.
don't never let me hear you talking like that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and so, you know, I started questioning her, like, who said your hair was ugly? Did someone say your hair is ugly? And she was like, no, no one said that. And I'm like, no, somebody had to say that. Or someone had to mention something. Did someone get picked at school? Like, why are you out of nowhere being afraid to take some fake locks out of your hair? You taking fake locks out of your hair, but you got real locks in your head. It's the same thing. What is going on in your mind? And she was like, well, kids might, you know, might think it's ugly, or they might say, no, what she said that when I take the fake ones out, they're gonna know that these ones were fake. I'm like, they gonna already know it was fake. You know, and it bothered me to my core, because I told her straight up, you know, that's something that I don't ever want to hear come out of your mouth, because you are
Yeah.
beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want you feeling like, you know, like, let me know if there's someone picking at you or making you feel some type of way about your hair or the way that you look. Let me know that, because we're gonna need to have a talk with the school about that type of stuff. Because and it's like, I just want to instill in my kids that, man, the skin that you're in is beautiful. You know, you don't
Absolutely.
have to have this straight hair, and you don't have to look like everyone else. You know, you don't have to be, you know, like I told my baby, I say, I'm bald. You think I'm gonna let somebody be worry me about being bald? No, I'm not. I'm not gonna worry about that. I don't care what people say, and people do try to still throw little jokes out there. I make fun of myself, you know, and I'm gonna have fun with it, but never allow someone to make me feel like I'm less than because of my appearance. And that's something like, that's like my big thing with my son and my daughters, you know, letting them know. And like my mom says it sometimes, like, my mom, you know, she ain't grow up like us. Yeah, I mean, my mom don't be on that type of stuff. So my mom is like, why y'all would lock that girl hair? I'm like, because that's what she want, mom. That's how she like her hair. I don't see nothing wrong with it. You
Right.
know, so me and my mom have gotten to it, you know. She kind of make little remarks, and I make my remarks back. And I say, Ma, it ain't nothing wrong with that girl here. She's perfect and she fine, you know, because society isn't used to that. You know, I mean, over the last few years, now you're seeing more women, black women, being natural, even in the workplace and stuff.
Right.
But,
Right.
you know, like, and when my wife first told me years ago, she was like, man, I think I want to cut all my hair off and lock my hair. I'm like, man, babe, do that. Like, what you think? If you asking for permission, do that. Like, I want you to do that. And my wife cut all her hair off, and some of her family members thought she was crazy because she cut all her hair off. And she grew her hair back and she locked her hair. And I'm like, man, I love that. Like, I just want my kids to know that, you know, we don't have to be what society tells us we have to be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's one of them things that, well, I get fired up about that, because, you know, I want my kids to know, like, we set the standard. You know, we don't
Absolutely.
allow society to tell us who we are. We don't allow society to make us feel any type of way. No, we gonna make society feel some type of way. You know, and if we got to be, we'll be disruptors. That's what we gonna be, and that's how we gonna live our lives, and we gonna honor the Most High. That's what we gonna do, man. So, yeah, that's the subject right there that get me fired up for real,
No,
seriously.
and I know what you mean too, because for me growing up, I always felt it was wrong to be me,
Yeah,
because he was quick to point fingers and crack jokes and laugh and really, eat at my insecurities. So for the longest, I thought it was wrong to be who I was. I had to feel like I had to fit in like a certain bubble and all these things. And that's something I preach my daughter. I want her to be comfortable in her own skin. Like I give her affirmations like, baby, you gotta stay with me. And I'm bold, I'm brave, I'm beautiful, I'm smart. Because ain't nobody gonna tell you different. Don't let people try to make you feel bad or down and stuff like that because they're insecure themselves. Don't worry about that. As long as you're happy with what you're doing, that's all that really matters. And I think like you're saying, going to society, and that's kind of bringing this up to a couple weeks ago. I remember because for me, I'm full Puerto Rican, right?
Yeah.
My mom is I'm a little bit darker than my mom, but my dad is white with green eyes.
Yeah.
And I mean, I got all my mom's DNA. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, but he's straight up my biological father and stuff. And a lot of people made a lot of different. And I didn't really understand, of course, what racism was until I got to school. When they started teaching us about slavery and all these things, and I was like dumbfounded that this was actually happening. But then as I started growing up and trying to really having it happen to me firsthand. People going to the bodegas and even Spanish people making comments, not knowing that I spoke Spanish and all those
Yeah.
things and all those little sliding marks and different places in around where I live, the predominantly white neighborhoods and really feeling uneasy and all those eyes and stares and stuff. I remember at one point, man, because I was looking at my dad and I was like learning about biology and all those things and how it all works and stuff. And I remember I was thinking to myself, I was like, man, like when I have kids, I pray to God they light skin. Like I don't want them to have to go through this struggle that I was going through and all this hate. You know what I mean? Like, and it kind of made me feel bad that I was kind of denying that part of myself. And it wasn't for fear that I didn't love it, I didn't appreciate it, it's because I seen how much that affected me mentally. I was like, I don't want my kids to have to go through this, man. The people in the world, and you would think like over time, I was like, oh, it's gonna get better. And you look at the world today, man. It's you get to we starting now with all the with all the cell phones and social media and all that stuff. We're getting really to see how ugly it
Mhm.
really is, and just being how mindful that it really didn't go away, and it make us try to think that all this negative stuff and segregation and racism and all this didn't happen so many years ago. It wasn't even 100 years ago. You know what I
I
mean? Like it hasn't even been 100
agree.
years where all this was happening. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's out there, it's real, man. But like you said, that I remember feeling that at one point, and just when I started having kids, like, I gotta tell them, embrace them and love them. That's how we're gonna change the world. Like, we can't be fearful or try to again to confide to society and try to fit in and stuff like that, because we denying ourselves at the core. So that's something with my daughter too, like really trying to instill with her, and making sure that she's in environmental schools where she is okay to be her, because my daughter's a firecracker, man. She got so much energy and she's such an enormous personality, and I
Hmm.
don't want that to die. Because that's how I felt like when I was growing up too. Everybody looked at me and I had a very, because there's parts of me, and I do have a very outgoing personality and friendly. As you see, I'm doing podcasts, I love talking to people and stuff like that. But I think because of the things that I had to face with and deal with in society, I kind of learned to put that in certain boxes, and only express it when it's necessary, and try to administer myself in certain areas because of that. So I don't want her to have to face that. Like I want her to be unapologetically her. Be
Yeah.
real, be open, and love who you are, embrace it, have fun. And all those things. Like I remember a couple of weeks ago, it was like last year actually. I picked her up from school, and she was sobbing. So you are listening. As a dad, I'm like,
Yeah.
who I got to take out right now, man?
Yeah.
Like, what happened to me? And I'm asking her, I'm like, babe, what's going on? She kind of broke it down. She was like, so and so said they didn't want to be my friend.
Yeah.
What? And that's got you like this?
Yeah.
I said, don't do that, man. Like, don't do that. So I was like, all right, watch this, man. We're gonna do something. So I took her off for a ride. We went out to go get some ice cream, and I was like, let's see how many friends you gonna make right now.
Yeah.
And she was just talking to random people, and I said, "Would you be my friend of all different ages and cousins?" Like, yeah, sure. We was counting them up, and I said, "Okay, baby, look at that. From school to here, it took us 30 minutes. You done made 25 new friends,
Yeah.
and you gonna cry over one person who said they didn't want to be your friend? We
Exactly.
don't do that. We
Mm.
don't do that at all. Let them go. Be in them. It's their loss because you're an amazing person." You know what I mean? Like, so I definitely, believe in that. And also too, like, especially with our daughters and stuff, and how important men, dads are in their daughters' lives. Because I'm sure we all know that girls who grow up with those daddy issues and all those things, and who don't have that real role model in their life, lead down a dangerous path because they're looking for that love in all the wrong places.
Hmm.
So it's so important us as dads that we really got to be there and stand up for them. Um, and it's been a real great conversation, man. I know like we tied up because it says it's gonna be like an hour and stuff. We already hitting that mark, man. But
Yeah.
I want to just touch on three last things before I let you go, man. So I know what was the whole idea and the concept of why you started your podcast, Dad? Can we talk, man? How did that come to be, and what are you trying to do with that?
With Dad, can we talk? It started. I think I started maybe 2018. I'm a big podcast listener, so one day I was looking for podcasts on fatherhood. I listened to a lot of true crime and history podcasts and sports and all that. So when I went to look for a dad podcast, I really didn't see a lot of things out there that I believe that was speaking to me. Really wasn't a lot of black dads out there. I saw a lot that was a lot of white guys doing it. I remember seeing this one wife and husband doing one. And I'm like, man, like if I was a person that was starting to listen to podcasts and I was a black guy like me, would I be compelled to continue listening? And I was like, no, I'm not. I wouldn't be. So I said, you know what? Let me start a podcast and let me speak from a black dad's perspective. You know, a person like me, you know, that come from the places that I come from. And that's what I did. So I went on Google and looked up some stuff, got me a whole idea written out, and I ended up going to one of my friends that worked at a radio station to just kind of run the idea from him to get a few pointers. And he was like, man, what you need me for? Like, you got the idea. He was like, there's nothing around here like that. Nothing. And so he offered me a free hour of airtime on the radio station every week. So I started doing that. I did that for like a year. And after the year, I really didn't like the radio thing. It was a lot of politics that goes into that. A lot of different things you can't say, can't do. You got to have the commercials. It was just a lot. So I see this comment. It's funny.
That's my boy, man. That's my boy.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah. but yeah. So when I went, I stopped doing that. So I stopped it for a minute. That's when I got back in school. So once I got back in school, you know, I never let the dream die. I had a class that taught me how to make logos. And I was like, oh, shoot, it's that easy. And so I had the tools to create. So I created a logo for my podcast. And I was like, all right, cool. I got a logo now. And I bought me some mics. And I was like, man, you know what? I got a logo now. I can just start my whole podcast. I'm going to just go for it and just do it. And so that's where I started. And the reason I really wanted to start that, like, I feel like dads are misrepresented in the media world. I feel like we're misunderstood at times, especially black dads. And I feel like our narrative, everyone else speaks about our narrative. Everybody says that black dads are this, black dads are that. We're missing, we're not there. All of these things, all this negative stuff that usually you hear about black dads in the media.
Right, right.
For me, I'm like, every dad I can think of in my head is a good dad. All the guys that I surround myself with and guys that I know in my community. So I said, you know what? If I start this podcast, I want to start bringing these guys on and allow them to tell their story from their own perspective. Because if you talk to women or media, whoever, a lot of times these guys are drugged through the mud, but no one wants to hear their side of the story. So I said, you know what? On this podcast, it's all about them. I'm going to let you speak your narrative, create your own narrative, and tell your story. And that's what I did, man. So I started, that's what I do. I get with dads, and I allow them to come on the podcast, and I interview them about their life and the things that they've been through and the things that they're facing, you know, whether it be child support or whatever. And I allow them to speak from their, regardless of what anyone else says, what's your story, bro? And I allow them without judgment to tell their story, you know. And it's been great, man, to see the guys come on. And you know, so many guys after we're done, they're like, man, listen, bro, I haven't talked about this type of stuff to anyone, bro. You know, they're like, bro, I ain't talked about my daddy since he died, or I ain't talked about my dad ever about to anyone because I don't think anyone cares. And you know, just to see my brothers in my community be uplifted, to feel encouraged, to feel like they matter, you know, to feel like they're heard, man, that gives me all the satisfaction I need. because I want for my brothers to know that I hear you. If no one else hears you, I hear you, bro. And if no one else cares, I care.
Absolutely.
And that's the basis of it, and that's what I do. And I'm look forward to continue to do that and encourage brothers in my community and beyond. It's grown much more than what I ever expected it would do. So yeah, man, I'm loving it.
No, absolutely, man. I think it's a very important thing that with what you're doing, man. That's like I said, seeing that we in line, and I wish you nothing but the success with your show and continue to grow, man, as well. If you ever need somebody else to talk to, man, I'd love to come on and chop it up with you too, man. I'm here. And so as we wind it down, like I said, I know we're a little bit over and stuff, but I got two last questions for you, Anthony, man. So number one, right? Everything that you've been through in your life, all your experiences, all your ups and downs, and everything that you face, what do you think has been the best advice you received?
Ooh, the best advice I received. Um, that's a hard one there. Um, I can tell you something recent that I heard. That conversation I was telling you about that I had with my boy Robert back in December. One thing he told me, he said, "Man, you know what? I talked with my father-in-law the other day, and he said, I think his father-in-law has been married, like I think he's on his third or fourth marriage, and he was like, his father-in-law told him, I think he said he went to his father-in-law and was like, man, bro, your daughter crazy, and he was like, man, let me tell you something. I done been married 3 or 4 times, and he was like, you know what I've noticed about one thing in common with all of my marriages was like all the women are crazy. He was like, it's all gonna start out good, and everything is fine. 3, 4 years go past, 5 years, 10 years. He was like, after a while, you gonna notice, man, this woman crazy. And he was like, at the end of the day, bro, it is what it is. Like you learn to build with that woman. You learn to love her. You learn to look past her flaws and love her flaws. It's like all of them gonna be crazy. And I was like, dang, I needed to hear that this time. You know what? And it just hit me. Like, you complain about, I can complain all day about my wife, all the things that she don't do or whatever. And then I can divorce my wife and go get with another woman. And you know what's gonna happen 10 years into that marriage? I'm gonna notice some stuff about that woman too. And it's like, what do you do? Like, ain't nobody perfect. I'm not perfect. She's not perfect. Ain't no one gonna be perfect. You're gonna always
Right.
be able to find something that you can complain about. All of us are crazy. All of us got our ways, man. So when my brother told me that, I was like, bet. You ain't got to say nothing else.
It's wild that you said it because sometimes, when my wife begins the conversation, she look at me, she's like, what is something about me that you don't like or that you would change all this stuff, whatever. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I can't say anything, you know what I mean? And the reason because of that is like the moment I said I loved you and I married you and stuff like that, I love you. The good, the bad, the ugly, the high, the ups and downs. I can't pick and choose, what parts you to like and love and care about all that stuff. That's not right. That's not what you call unconditional love.
That's real.
We're gonna bang heads here and there and stuff like that, and like little things may be snoring or treat your food to all that stuff like that. But you know what? If I said I loved you, I mean I love everything that comes with it. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna sit here and pick and choose or try to remember. She's like, oh well, what happened that bothered you? I was like, yeah, you did something that bothered me, and I'm not gonna remember because you know what? It is what it is. Like it happens at a party or whatever. I'm just gonna move on. I'm not gonna sit and dwell or like all those things because again, at the end of the day, I'm in love with you,
Straight.
all of you.
Straight.
You know what I mean? Like, so I'm not gonna get into that conversation of, what to do or change or try to change you into be something that you're not. I fell in love with you with the person that you are, not who I want you to be or who I think you should be,
That's real.
so, that's something I think about too, when we can't pick and choose because again, like you said, and nobody's perfect, nobody gonna be perfect. And it's how you, I always say this, right? Every relationship has its good times and its bad times.
Mm.
It's the good times that make it last, but it's the bad times that make it strong.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, so if you're able to overcome those two things, you're gonna have a very, 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 very strong relationship and a good relationship. And my last question, final question I got for you, boss, right? Again, like looking at everything you're going through and stuff, and looking at the people and the generation that's coming up behind us and all the and everything. What is a piece of advice you would like to offer them?
Um, Never stop. You know, never stop and never become so discouraged that you would like. If I would have looked at my situation, 3 kids, wife, I done been to college twice, gave up on both times. It's like I could have just easily been like, man, it is what it is. I'm done. You know, like there's no hope for me to do anything better, anything different with myself. If I would have looked at it in that way, I would have still been in that same place. But you know what? One day I said, you know what? It's not over for me. You know, it's just not over. You know, and I allowed that thought to lead me into everything I'm doing right now. You know, like if I would have listened to certain people, there's certain people that told me, man, a podcast, you just gonna be talking, you gonna be cool. If that's how you feel, that's how you feel. You know, and there are people that will discourage you and will attempt to discourage you and say things. Uh, if I would have listened to people, man, there are people that I wouldn't have. The house, me and my wife, we stepped out in 2020 and bought our first house, everything, man. You know, and there were people that was telling us that wouldn't be a good idea. And it was a perfect idea for the, especially in the area that we're in. It's funny because there's someone across the street from us selling their house right now, and we looked at the price that they're selling it for right now. I'm like, wow, it's almost half of what we got our house for 2 years ago.
Mm,
And I'm just like, you know, and there were people that was telling me that, you know, don't do it. You know, that you can't do this and it's not the right time. All these different things. And people telling me, why go to school? You don't need school. You can do, man, whatever. You know, it's at some point you have to live for yourself and stop thinking about what other people say and stop taking
absolutely.
anyone else's advice or they're looking at their, because people have failed in certain things, so they project their failures onto you and tell you that because it didn't work out for
Hmm.
me, it won't be good for you. So that's the big thing that, you know, I would tell someone, you know, don't, because I failed at a certain thing or, you know, something didn't work out for me, try it on your own. You know, hey,
Hmm.
you either, I'm only telling you my experiences, you know, but my experiences are for me. My life is my life. You live a totally different life from me. You're a totally different person. You have totally different experiences. So don't allow me to deter you from what you want to do. I'm only here to offer my experiences to show you what I've saw in the things that I've experienced. And some of it has been good and some has been bad. But live your own experiences. Some things you might want to listen to me and say, you know what? I'm gonna learn from what he went through. But sometimes, man, hey, if you're gonna go for it, then go for it. Don't allow me to stop you or anyone else. You know, so
No, absolutely.
I think that's the biggest thing, man. Don't ever feel like it's too late or you can't do this. Like, man, go for it. If you fail, all right, cool. Keep going.
Yeah, no, you know what? That made me think of a quote that Steve Harvey said. He said, you know, if you want to kill a big dream, tell it to a small-minded person.
Yeah.
You know, God showed the vision to you, not to anybody else. So it ain't to anybody else to fulfill or to follow or to go in that. He showed it to you. So that's what you got to go on and don't let the other narrative and the people around you take you down. Because you said that too, it's either because they feel that they can't do it or they'll be jealous that if you are able to be successful and they weren't at it, you know what I mean, have that kind of that envy on you. So, you know, if you got something that you really believe in, that you really want to do, go for it. You know, you either gonna succeed or you gonna learn. You know what I'm saying? And there's only two outcomes. You gotta look at it. So um again, Anthony, man, it's been a great conversation, man. I appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me and have this convo, man. I look forward to talking to you more in the future. Again, I wish you nothing but success with your podcast. I think what you're doing is a very admirable thing and an amazing thing that you're doing. Like you know, different avenues and stuff. And even like that, you know, we talking about men and talking those things. And we got two different podcasts. but I want nothing but success for you, man. We got to get the word out there, and it's all about really bigging up the people who are listening to us men, and giving that platform. So again, thank you so much. I appreciate you. And as I always say, everybody, no matter who you are, no matter what you've done, your big brother loves you. Stay blessed, everybody.
Yes, sir.